that was the time we stayed in Swami's house for 4 weeks. And that time, Swami always had visitors like Chinmoyananda Swami, who is... When I met Swami first, I didn't really know what was going on. I was traveling in India around, then I somehow reached Swami. I didn't want to go to Puttaparthi. I didn't have no idea what was Puttaparthi all over. And then I was in Bangalore, and some American couple in a VW bus, they picked me up on the road to Hyderabad, and they were telling me, we're going to Puttaparthi, there's Mahashivaratri. And I thought, I have nothing plans in India more at the moment, and let's go to that festival. But I had no idea what was going on. So I came to Puttaparthi, and so I was traveling already a year in India, north and south, in Goa, where all these hippie met. Yes, and then when I was in Puttaparthi, first darshan, I looked very wild. So nowadays, I couldn't believe it. I just had this short dhoti around and no clothes on, just a towel around my bag. And so I was sitting in the darshan line, and some Indian gentleman in the back told me, you should wear a shirt, you know. So I didn't really react. But the other guy who came, this American guy, also came with, you know, sadhu dress and naked. He had no shirt on. So, but the next few days I started to have at least a dhoti around my shoulders and be covered more, you know. But I still didn't really know what was going on. There was Shivaratri when Swami materialized in 70, he materialized this lingam. And that's the first time I saw kind of, when the lingam came out, I was a little away, I saw this kind of like a light flash, you know. And so there was no accommodation, so I stayed on the Chitravati River at night with my straw mat. And there I'd partly really, my mind was going like in a washing machine, you know, like this. And slowly after this week, the Westerner became an interview. There were about 15 Westerners there. And so Swami called everybody and what is your name? Where do you come from? And then he put everybody got behind the curtain. He got a more kind of a private, for 1-2 minutes, a private question from Swami. So he told me, yes, my mind goes like this, you know, good. Is it good for me? Is it bad for me? Like this. I could not really decide. I was very, how to say, I had no confidence, you know. And then somehow Swami calmed me down in this interview. All this week when I was going, my mind was going wild, it was like a calm ocean. And all these waves in the ocean were just flat. So I felt there's nowhere to travel anymore. So I'm at home in a way that I realized it's not necessarily a physical home, Puttaparthi, but still it's home. My inside was calming down. And so when we then went to Whitefield, a few of the Westerners went to Whitefield, and I was living under a tree opposite Brindavan. There was 8 Westerners about and 1-2 Indian sadhus. So we stayed under for 2 months or for 6 weeks under this tree. And everybody had his straw mat and so like this. And so we could always, at the night, we could see Swami's windows when he turned off the light. And so after some time, we thought maybe we have to get a room or a place to stay. Like the monsoon is coming, rainy season is coming. It was April or something, March, April. And then everybody was trying to get small pump houses who were very cheap in the fields, the pump houses. Some of the pump houses had a kind of a well. You could also go down and swim in the well. So I wrote a letter to Swami if I can use the pump house which belonged to the Brindavan compound in this rice field. So we went to Darshan, and all of a sudden Swami sent somebody out he told all the Westerners move into Brindavan, you know. So we got one of the buildings, this kind of flat building, which was later on the Bhajan hall, just close to the inner gate. And so we got 2 rooms, one for the girls and one for the boys. And we got also the kitchen from his Gurkha guard. He had a watchman, and they gave us the kitchen of these people. And so we could cook and do prepare our own food. Like there was nothing outside, just a little restaurant, which was really more horror Bhagawan, which means house of horror. Like it was very primitive. Well, we were used to primitive things in India, but this was quite the peak, you know. So, and then we had every day in that time, I think it was a month or something, we had, or it was maybe 6 weeks, we had every day Swami came and we were learning bhajans, and we had also talks with Swami, and he taught us bhajans also, and played the cymbals, and so we slowly learned the bhajans. And then the college started again. So what to do with these Westerners? So we went over to that time there was a little park with a few trees around the old building where Swami was staying. So the ladies got a room in Swami's landlord house, and we had a little room where we just kept the luggage. And so we stayed outside under the trees in that park. And so there was about also 4 weeks. And Swami was upstairs, so some could go upstairs. Not just before his room, there was kind of a veranda. So that was the time we stayed in Swami's house for 4 weeks. And that time, Swami always had visitors like Chinmayananda Swami, who is quite well known in India, and also Ravi Shankar came, and some other prominent people. So we were sitting there. And then also one day we got invited to the ice cream factory. The ice cream factory in Brindavan was very new. And it was another miracle story, which was written in some of the books. So Swami told us, come. So the ice cream factory sent a truck, and all the Westerners went on the truck. We drove to the ice cream factory, and there was a kind of an inauguration from Swami, and Swami was blessing the production. And then there was a big ice cream cake, and we got so much ice cream. You see, so 3 or 4, all different kinds. So we didn't know really what was happening. Between we got Indian mixture, and then the Swami was cutting this ice cream cake, you know. First he was doing it like this. Oh, it's very difficult. Then zip, it went down. So we still had to eat ice cream cake, also a part of it. And just a few days before, Swami was talking about, food. Don't eat too much. 75% will be enough, to fill your stomach. Yeah, and one of the stories was also one day we invited Swami, like we were invited through Swami also in his house for getting food and things. And one day we invited Swami, we cooked. And so we were sitting on the ground and Swami passed by and also gave ladus, sweet, South Indian sweet. And all of a sudden outside, there was something like a hurricane, It was going like this, And later on we saw trees were taken off and it was very difficult outside. And so the lightning was also outside. And we were sitting in this room. I felt like in a submarine with Swami, being saved in this room and having Swami next to you. That was one of the things too, And one day Swami, he was saying that he's going to Puttaparthi or to Prasanthi Nilayam. And so he had a tailor, and the tailor came, like Swami was dressing us new, So we got kind of a dress which was a Western night, the men dress, the night dress of men is like you have a shirt, and then you have pants, and there was the stripes. And so the tailor came and everybody was asking, for what we need this dress? Should we go on stage, with this dress? So that was going around our head. And one guy was telling, he wanted to have a special cut of his pants, to be kind of more, let's say, more up to date. And so then one day we asked Swami, what is about this dress? Do we have to go on stage? No! But he was keeping the flame, like the question, for 1-2 weeks, So everyone was saying we have to go on stage with that. And so we had this dress for the nighttime, Yeah, and then we went to Puttaparthi and Guru Purnima. Was the first time we were singing as a Western group in front of on the veranda. And later on, to Dasara, we had already quite some potential, singing potential. And we were singing to about 30,000 Indian devotees. And we on stage, and Swami came by and blessed it and looked at everything was okay. And so we were singing bhajans, and quite good. And of course, the devotees, the public was very, very appreciating that, And so that was a very intense meeting. That was the first year when I was with Swami. Also before Dasara, there was these stone slabs you can see of the Swami's sayings, So we were painting that too. And Swami came every day looking what we were doing, Some were very not so good, and they were, how to say that, a little bit sloppy, He was telling you, this, you have to get better. But we were no painters. Only 1 or 2 of us had an idea. But later on, everything was fine. Everything worked out very good. And this experienced in the Pune Chandra Hall that time, every day the Swami came and that was quite something. You're very, very close to Swami, And you get so used that you were close to Swami. And also in the mandir at that time, we were always sitting in front, And my wish was, I had always this wish already when I was traveling in India. Oh, to have to play a drum. But I had no rhythmic feeling. I was very, how to say that, blocked in a way, And so I had a snakeskin drum, and I was sitting in a mandir for about 2 months and play very, very, not very loud, so I don't disturb somebody. And all of a sudden, one day I was looking at Swami, somehow I closed my eye, and all of a sudden this energy came. And my hands were playing by itself, And then that moment I had kind of rhythmic feeling, And before that I was just blocked, This is also this personal experience. And after we had this first year was very close, Swami was taking care really like a mother, and he was asking, you need some money one day? I didn't have any, and somehow the money came from somebody else, and so everything was fine, And after this year, there was some problem in the group, of course. If you're very close in the group, you have this group, how to say that, dynamic, and things sometimes don't work that good. Swami was in Bombay, and then he gave kind of a crash in the group. Some left, and others did some other stuff, We went to cinema, went to Bangalore, eating some meat in some Western restaurant. Things like this happened, and of course, this is also a challenge, Not always everything works wonderful, And I went that was very confusing that time. So I went to Kerala for 2 weeks, and I thought, Swami, I'm finished with you. I'm fed up. In the group, everything is strange. So I went to Kerala to a small ashram, and every night I had a dream of Swami, Then I knew I came back to nothing finished with Swami. I came back to Puttaparthi, and when I came back, we were living on the roof of one of the little houses. I had this very strong experience, some kind of, I don't want to say like Advaita, but all of a sudden, I was meditating, but it was not in my meditation that it came. I was meditating, relaxing, sitting there, and all of a sudden things happened, And then I was really, I felt very closed, But not so much the Swami's physical form, so this inner contact. There's one story I have to go back. When I was 4 months about with Swami, who was in Whitefield, and in India it's usual that you touch the feet, and Indians sometimes jump in. So I was sitting there, and that time there were not so many people. So I thought, no, I'm not going to touch Swami's feet, only if I really comes from my heart. And one night, I was very into Ramakrishna, and one night I had a dream of Ramakrishna melting with Swami, and the next morning, so now I'm ready. Swami came out of the house, of this bungalow, and came for darshan. He came right over, and then I touched his feet. And that was the moment I accepted him, the physical form of Swami. Like it took me always difficulties. I looked like a Western hippie, long hair and beard and things. And I always thought that holy man has to bear the beard and long hair. And Swami looked more like Jimi Hendrix. But then I accepted Swami in a way. That was when I was, so now I'm ready to the outer form. Before when I met him, first interview, I had this inner feeling, that Swami that's my teacher, my friend, my Swami is God in a way. It took a little while. But he's everything I can trust on. I stayed about 2 years with Swami, and the second year was more Swami. The new Western people came, so he kept us a little back. We are the old ones, and so the new people got interviews, and so we had to get ready with that too. To either do our sadhana. And one day I remember we had been, Swami wanted to give us some work. So there's that time the Sanatana Sarati was printed in Prasanthi Nilayam, just on this kind of old technique, this kind of, I think in German it's called offset. And so we had to sort the pages. And when we went over there, and we went there, and I think we had been 5 or 6 boys, and slowly as things dropped away, in the end we had only 2 left. We had somebody else, and so all one day we just disappeared also from that work. That's what Swami was saying in some of his interviews about the Westerners, young Westerners, that I gave them something to do, but they didn't want, And so later on, after the last 50 years, I had to do this for the situation, living the work in Puttaparthi, but I knew now I have to do 10 times more the last 50 years, work for Swami in a way. Yeah, and when I came back to Germany, we came with about 3, 4, 5 people, also from the same city. They came also to India as, let's say, traveling in India around. And then we went to Goa, and then we went to North. And I was in, 72, I went hitchhiked to Madras or to Chennai, and then I took a train to Calcutta. First to Puri, which is a holy city where Yogananda and Yukteswar, there is some ashram there. So I just walked down the road in Puri, and all of a sudden a car stopped, and two gentlemen from Puttaparthi, one was Kasturi's son, and the other, he was the chairman of the Indian organization. They stopped, hello, and then they invited us to Calcutta. So we could stay there in the little bookstore in Calcutta. We could stay there overnight and also have food with the people and sing bhajans with them. All of a sudden, somebody was saying, Swami is coming to Delhi, after a long time. So we went to Delhi, and we met Swami then on golf links road, which was in the area of the embassies, and government offices. So we stayed there, and then Swami went to Kurukshetra, and then I went home with the 4 or 5 people in a VW bus. Like a half year before, in October 71, I thought, my God, I don't want to go overland back. I don't want to go, of course, overland, but I don't want to hitchhike back. And so Swami brought these young people, came to Puttaparthi, this German couple from Nuremberg also, and then we drove back from Delhi back to Germany. That was in a way, there are so many stories between, I could go back. Sorry for that. When I came back, we started, 72, we started a bhajan group, like a lot of 4 or 5 of us were very good singers already, knew the bhajans. And then later in 75, there was the first World Conference, and so I took part in that. And like one of our group was managing the registration of the foreigners. And so he told me, Beno, you're a group in Nuremberg, you will be a delegate. So I was, I think, the only delegate from Europe. I mean, not from UK, of course. And so there is some, in Tenerife or in the Canarian Islands, they have some Indians. They had also a center there, but we never had contact. And so in Nuremberg, we started with the first group in the first center. And things that later on, they were growing, and we still have to work for Swami, all this time, and starting the newsletter. Then we, of course, not myself, but I'm in the board of directors of the Sathya Sai Society. Then we started, people started translating books. We have printed the books. So the whole movement started in 1982 to 84. The Sathya Sai Society started. Well, I started in 75. I thought I will be a year in India again. But that was after 4 months. It was at the time of the World Conference. In Christmas, I flew back to Germany after 4 months. I knew, finished, not longer. India is not a place where I have to do something. So I thought always, India is my motherland from the heart, but Germany is my fatherland. There I have to be active. And that's always, if I went to India for 2 or 3 weeks, then I thought, okay, that's enough. The one thing, when I was traveling 69 and 1970, it was the second time in India. I was, the first time in 68, I was only in the north, And I traveled through India, and I always looked in the shops of the shopkeeper, which is his guru. His guru Nanak, then there's maybe some other yogis, Yukteswar, or some of the normal Indian gods. And I said, he's a follower of Lakshmi, he's a follower of Rama, Krishna. And I never saw consciously a picture of Swami. But Swami was already well known in 69 and 70, And also when I was in Goa with some others, they were saying, we're going to the few of the people who went to Swami, came later to Swami. They're saying, we're going to the south, there is some guru. And I thought, okay. I would have to go to Bangalore and pick up a little money from my grandmother. She was always sending me $10 every 4 weeks or 6 weeks. And that's why I was in Bangalore. And in the market, somebody came up, you have to see Sai Baba and Shiva Bala Yoga. And I thought, no, I'm not into an ashram. I have met some yogis before, but some sadhus, which had been, some of them had very much presence. And I thought, oh, no, I'm not going. And I'm going to Hyderabad. And that's what I just told you before. This VW bus gave me a lift. And the funny thing was, in India, it was very easy to travel. They knew that I'm Western, even if I was in sadhu clothes. They didn't came forward. I thought, what is happening here? Then came this bus, And they said, yeah, we're going to Puttaparthi. Then they opened the door, and there was this huge picture of Swami, live picture. And it was, that time, the quality of the picture was not very good. So there are Indians always, they painted the lips and putting a dot, tilak here. And so I thought, he looks like Jimi Hendrix. I had no, how to say that, there was nothing, I had no feeling, to this person, to the picture at least. And I thought, oh, let's go to Puttaparthi. And then came the Mahashivaratri. And I told you just before, I was on the river, and it was very, the living was very primitive, but not a problem for me. Like I was traveling in India, sleeping in railway stations, and taking showers in first class waiting rooms, and being in some temples, so that was not a problem for me. And but how to say that, but I felt home, There was a canteen, there was a washerman, so it was like, that time we even had hot water. The adobe man, they had some kind of cabin, and then you could buy a bucket of hot water for 10 paisa, and then you get some cold water also, so you could take a hot shower, very Indian style, but I was used to it. But I think some Western people like Dr. Hislop or Elsie Cohen, they came already 2 years before. The Swami mostly kept them in Vrindavan. They came to Swami mostly in Vrindavan, except maybe Indra Devi. She was also in Puttaparthi, and I think he had 1 or 2 rooms, which was at least had some water and had a toilet or something like this. But it was for special guests. That time, otherwise, there was not much around. Yeah, but for us, it was no problem. Then one day, also in the 70s, Swami was, for the boys, he was next to the mandir, where they have the garage for his car. There was this building was open on the other side towards the sand, not towards the inside of the mandir, but towards outside. And the boys could get a room that time. So we had this room to about 10 boys, and but it was only if it was raining, we stayed on the veranda, next to each other on straw mats. I went always up to the hospital, and there was some water tank, and which was a kind of a platform, and I slept there, and it was wonderful. It was just having the sky, in the morning, the Om Karam, and what could you wish more? And if it was really when it was raining, we could go in the little hospital. There was a veranda, so we could stay there also. That was in the 70 times. And Swami always, when I came back from India, I wanted to do, before I was an office clerk, before I left in 66, traveling in Europe, bumming around. It was just the time of the beatniks. And also many went to India, myself also. And when I came back, I knew, when I left India, I wanted to do something in the West, get some job and do something, And so you have your own income, don't have to depend on others. So I went into social work with handicaps, and that the job now later on was always like a red line. Swami's teaching, or the connection to Swami was like a red line through private things, through family things, through my job. It kept me always on the track, So there was no idea of dropping out again, and things just became very, in a way, devoted and doing what you have to do, in a way. That was the last 50 years. And I'm still I still like to work in the organization. Now, of course, I know my energy is not anymore the same like 10 years ago. And so I do not so much traveling, let's say in Europe, or let's go to Riverdale, This it's the moment, not anymore. I was 2018. I was at a pilgrimage, which was quite nice. In 2014, we had a pilgrimage. You know about it, and that was in a way 2018, the last time I went to India. And then I had the feeling, okay, no more traveling to India, and also it's also health reasons. I mean, one special thing, and in all these years was was one saying I could always keep in my mind: don't imitate. This I told you already before. I had not much self-confidence, and it even took me 4 months to touch Swami's feet. But then it came from the heart. I didn't want to imitate others, and that was also the saying I always, all these 50 years, don't imitate. If they do this, don't prove. If you really do it from the heart, and if you don't do it from the heart, then you don't do it. Of course, you have some convention. You greet somebody, but you how to say that you don't get too close. Swami was saying once, all one, all alone. If you're on the spiritual path, in a way, you are alone. I mean, if you have families and you have a wife and things, but in the final thing is you are alone. Your development is you have to do by yourself. Of course, it's nice to have a family and things like this, and have a background and also these two. Let's say, don't imitate. And what took me also in the beginning of Swami was there has nothing to do with money. Nobody is kind of pushing you. Like some yogis I've met, they have a lot of energy, and then you came into a room, it's like it blows your mind. But that was not Swami's way. Swami very softly, everybody got only this energy which he could take, and only sometimes it's like you have a whale, and for a few seconds you see the immense power of Swami. Then the whale closes again. Like otherwise you would be probably not ready. That would blow your mind. That's what I found that always kept me with Swami. And I knew this is the way. It has nothing to do. No missionary. Nobody wants to push his idea. Of course, you have devotees also pushing their ideas. We had also in our group one guy, American, who was very dominating, very intellectual. He thought himself as he's the first disciple, And the others, okay, they are also okay, but the Beno, is also okay, but he's not the one. He always thought. Swami also let the egos grow. If you're in a special position, you think, you are something special to Swami, you're the first disciple or whatever. Then it grows a bit, he boils it up, and all of a sudden, and just it blows you up in a way, which is very important, like you really own relationship to Swami. This is very important. And not somebody else's, how easy. Your own relationship to Swami. That keeps you on track, that keeps you on track through the whole life. And that's also, I had a feeling, this is really true, and not collecting divine. We had other gurus in the 70s, was full Indian different gurus, some collecting money and some very prominent, like the Beatles came to Rishikesh. I was there, not when the Beatles were there, but I also went to this ashram, but they didn't want us to have, like have no money. So that's when Swami always takes people and gives them the chance. There's no difference between a simple South Indian farmer and a scientist from the US, And and if he talks to people, of course, in a special interview, he talks, of course, on the level of people can understand, But in his public speeches, it's only the simple man who is not intellectual, he understands, Swami in a way. He has few sentences from Swami's speeches he takes, and he understands this I have to do. And also the scientist, of course, he gets some also. That's the universality of Swami's teachings. And yeah, there's a few situations, you know. I remember Christmas. I think it was Christmas 70, 71, or was it 70? It doesn't matter. I thought, okay, Swami was in Whitefield, you know. So I came from Puttaparthi and I went on the train. And then on the train, there was a sleeper. It was very crowded, the train, but it didn't matter to me. From Calcutta at that time to Delhi, I was sitting like this, you know, like on my knee, sitting just like the Indians sit on the floor. And it was okay, you know, I was used to all this. And then I was in this train to Bangalore, that before Christmas, and all of a sudden somebody, I don't know how, somebody was telling, yes, Swami is going to Puttaparthi, and I was really in the train to Bangalore, and I got so angry, you know. How can he go to Puttaparthi now? Am I on the train to Bangalore? And I had this, I was so really angry inside. And I think the people around me were also angry, they had this feeling, not angry, they had a feeling, what is with this guy? And all of a sudden, one gentleman came down from his sleeper, you know, it was third-class sleeper, and offered me this place to sleep there, you know, in a crowded train. And all of a sudden, I knew, my God, I felt so ashamed, you know, that I got angry and had this tension, and people around me felt the tension. And then he went down and offered me this place. And I tell you, I was just thinking going into a hole, you know. I was so ashamed. But that's the lesson, you know, you get from Swami. Yeah, I was very much into Rama. And Swami was telling us, teaching us also through this Mahabharata and also through the Ramayana. He was telling us about the Ramayana. And there was some situation, like I think it was Balu or some of the kings of the monkey king, or the brother of the monkey king, and it was Rama was standing behind behind a tree, and he had a bow, and he shot this arrow to this monkey king. I think it was the monkey king. And I asked him, how can he hide behind a tree, you know, and shot this guy? That king was not a pure guy, of course, and then Swami told me from his last incarnation, Rama had to do this, you know. There was some incarnations before where there was a situation, I think there was a vow that he will be shot or whatever, you know. So he explained it in a very simple way. I cannot really remember the story completely, you know. But so he taught us that, and he teaches us also that I told you, don't imitate. He teaches us also that we have to find our way and not copy the Indian way or the way of Indian devotees. You have to go, you find your own way, you know, sing your own songs also. Of course we like bhajans, and we did it in all these years. But also in the beginning, in the beginning, we already tried to get some Western. It was difficult to get some Western songs in the 70s, but we still had bhajans and then also international songs, which is very important. And also what I had a feeling, Swami told us, if we have a center or groups in the West, we should not copy Indian rituals, you know. This is not your culture, it's Indian culture. If it's the arati, or if it's the arati flame, or if it's bowing down on the floor, and you don't have to do that. He didn't forbid it, but he told us it's in the West you have to somehow remember your own culture. And this is also a way he taught us, you know. also to look at our own culture. And I think in the time with Swami, I also learned more about Western mystics like Master Eckhart and others I never knew before, I had very much difficulties with the Christian religion. I dropped out of the church, and there was still this old resentment about Christian churches, especially. And there all of a sudden in India, also many Indian devotees, they knew more about Christianity, the real reason, the real sayings of the Bible, the important sayings of the Bible. And that helped me a lot also to not be so negative about my own culture. It took me a while, but now it's okay. You can integrate, of course, singing bhajans and things like this. I remember that in the beginning also of the Sai organization, that people that people like the bhajans were neutral to them. If they had been in a Christian background, they already had negative experiences, so they rather don't want to sing Christian songs. They remember too much on their past. But there are few Christian songs you can, at that time already. In the meantime, you have a lot of Western songs which are very beautiful. But in that time, in the beginning, so the 70s, was difficult. Most of the Christian songs, I had a friend who checked through the songbook of the Protestant church, and he found from 200, he found maybe 10, so they may be okay. Then don't always tell you, you're a sinner, That's one of the Swami was telling us, we all in the group had to get through the past, to accept, and also a very important thing is get clear with your parents. Like I had a lot of problems with my father, and I dropped from home and didn't want to have contact anymore. My mother, of course, still I had contact, but my father. But then I realized after Swami, I have to go through this, I have to go through this negative feeling and be ready if there is a moment you can, let's say, you get in contact. A moment you can also respect the other, and he is respecting you. There came maybe 3, 4, 5 years later, then my father all of a sudden came up and offered me something which was very surprising. And then we could talk to each other on the same level, with no negative feelings, It was in Nuremberg, it was the first group like we had, center was, it's not a big center, there were maybe a handful of people. So we started every Thursday, we were singing as a bhajan group first, and sometimes we had 10, 15 people who came. Also people had been in India, but had no connection to Swami, but they came, they liked it, And later on, a little, like in Nuremberg, it always was going like this, And so we never came over 4 or 5 people. And in the 80s, I somehow quit that group. I thought 10 years to stand up and try to be a group, and there's nothing behind it really, maybe 2, 3, 4 people, and they are not really strong into the organization or to the work Swami is doing. So and we started, I think 5 or 6 times we started in Nuremberg already. But then other groups started in Munich, Hamburg, Berlin, they really grew to bigger centers. And I was, of course, always I was in the Sathya Sai Society since the beginning in 82, which are doing recordings. So I kind of was doing audio cassettes, producing audio cassettes and distributing to devotees, things like this. But in Nuremberg, it was not so strong. At the beginning, we were the first group. Took part in the 75 World Conference. I told you already there was nothing else. I think Canarian Island was one group, Indian devotees. Of course, UK you had, of course. But otherwise, there was no no group, maybe a single devotees somewhere in Europe. That was difficult sometimes. I was sitting every Thursday. I was sitting there. Sometimes nobody came. Sometimes I had a little shop, rented a little shop, but it was very neutral. Just some plants out in the window, and a little sign, Sathya Sai Center. But compared to the Indian center, it was a group. But I reported in 80. I started reporting to India. And they were very nice, giving us feedback. But of course, I didn't have the capacity, and I didn't have the money to do printing. But other devotees already started to. Milena from Bonn, she produced the first book, and slowly things started. And what is very interesting, that the German Sathya Sai Society, the German Book Center, was growing from very little, very slowly, but very stable, 40 years. So we grew very slow compared to others in the 80s. But we had, I think, Germany, we had 120 books or 140 books translated in all these 40 years, which was very devoted from devotees. Somehow we managed it, and Swami's blessed that the way we grew up, which was very, very nice. In UK, in 74, I was in UK and visiting a Sathya Sai center. There were 120 people, but there were only maybe 5 to 10 Westerners. I call them Westerners. And those were all Indian devotees. So the centers in UK, they're still, of course, very much touched by Indian background, Indian culture, And we had nearly no Indians in Germany or the rest of Europe, and also in East Germany probably. There were only one or two Indians, but there were not. We started these things more in a Western style, and so also Western people could easier find the way. Of course, not so many. If you have a big group of Indian people, of course, there's another dynamic. It's really a center living and singing, but we in Germany, we always had it more in the Western style. We started, we were singing bhajans, and we showed movies, and maybe sometimes talks, or we took quotations before the singing, and also we started to include Western songs into the bhajan meeting, and I think this was very important. And also, I told you before that some people who had this Christian background, they had no problems with bhajans. But if you start in a Western Christian song, and they somehow remember to going like this, But it's interesting that people so open, people who are not interested in religion, but if they hear bhajans, they really somehow touch their heart. They're simple. There is not many preconceived ideas coming up in your head. You just listen or you sing. There was in the 80s, there was a lot of dynamic. It was like in the German, would you say, Aufbruch? It was the beginning. We all had been younger, of course, 30, 40. There was a lot of energy to this and this. People were really putting their lives in. In the SSV, Sathya Sai Vereinigung, in the book center, and printing the first Sathya Sai newsletter, which came four times in a year. And there was a lot of dynamic. And of course, groups in Central grew in the 90s, I think we had double or 3 times centers. I think we had 12 or 13 centers in Germany, and about 20, 25 groups. And nowadays you have 5 centers and 12 groups or something like that. Of course, it has go down. And the problem in the West nowadays, that time, in the 90s, you had also younger or middle-aged people who came, There was a lot of energy, of course, they brought. And nowadays you have very, very few old devotees who are 40 years with Swami, and they are maybe 70, 80 years, and there it's difficult to get this this fire to get this energy, to keep up this energy, That's, of course, some groups are doing since 40 years or 30 years the same, and there's nobody coming new, And of course you say, wow, a young people who goes to a group where they're 60, 70, and they're maybe not so open, a small group, they feel like left over, they're not interested, And it's at the moment, we have the problem to get young people interested in the organization, In some bigger centers, it's easier, In bigger centers like Berlin, Hamburg, there is some more dynamic there. There's 20, 30, 40 people, also in Munich. There you have young people. For young people, it's important to have some kind of peer group, to have somebody 1, 2, 3 more in the same age or nearly the same age, to how to say that, to feel home in a way. And not you are 17 or 18 and the others are 70 and 80. You think, oh my God, they're nice people and they try, but it's not my world. So that's the problem we probably have, especially to get, to reach young people. You can, of course, you can try to open your program. You can do also outside the group in the center. You have music groups and you can reach people there. But if only a few will come and show up in the center. And I mean, one thing I think it was important also, that the Sathya Sai Center, that's already, I remember when Swami in the 80s or 70s told us, when you go back, we are not an Indian temple. The Sathya Sai Center is no Indian temple, I liked to go to an Indian temple. I like to have all these rituals, but it's not a place in the center. If you're a small group, when you have no new people, you can do your ritual, of course. You can do arati or whatever, or you put out the vibhuti to everybody. That we're doing also, and if you have Indian devotees, they know about it. But if you a bigger group or a center, and there are really new people come, you have to get really be careful, not to. The people have to they feel pressed to take the vibhuti, or they feel pressed to do the same, And Dr. Hislop in the 80s was writing that they had some kind of trying to ask people what is disturbing in the centers, for new guests. The first was we have to put out shoes, and the second was, which is more important, I came to the center and they were singing, and I had no idea what is going on, that somebody is important, in a group in the center. If there's somebody new, take care of him, to introduce him, and so he doesn't feel pressed, This is very, very important. Then he will come again, otherwise they will not come again. Yeah, I went there to a group, it's called Sai Baba group, but the singing was quite nice, but I didn't feel home, I didn't feel attracted. That's, I think, also a very important point. In Swami, I learned also to get self-confident, try and do and go, and don't be shy. Don't, I cannot do it. It's not my thing. Swami gave me one lesson. I remember, and in 78, we had, I think it was 78, we had again in the Purnachandra, we were preparing banners, with Swami's sayings on it, Swami's quotation. So the silk banner is difficult to put some, to the sayings on it, the letters on it. So I was there and I thought, my God, I cannot do that. That always will move, and how can I put on the sayings on this banner? So I thought about it, and all of a sudden I thought, no, that's not I cannot do that. I went to the entrance, of the ladies' side, and Swami came from the man's side. Then, of course, when Swami came, I was waiting, standing on the exit, when Swami came straight over and were telling me, "What are you doing?" You know, when I felt, and at that moment, I knew, you know, he told me, you know, "What are you doing? Don't hesitate, you know, try, do it." Like my painting I was doing in 75 also already, you know. No, it was in 1970, this painting with the stone slabs. But it showed me, you know, even if you're not a master, you don't have to be a master, but you can try and do, with Swami's grace and with God's grace, you can do a lot of things will work out. And that's also one of the things. Be strong, you know, be self-confident, you know, and of course discriminate also, you know. And I think that's a very important thing, that you don't be shy, and, you know, have the confidence to do these things, you know. And then things will work out also. Of course, maybe not perfectly, but you don't have to be a master. But God has to feel that you try and you do it strongly and concentrated, and then He will help you, and things will work out. That's, I think, a very important thing, you know. Then always I had these problems, no self-confidence, and oh my God, you know, is it right, it's wrong, and all these things in the beginning with Swami. And I had hard lessons in that time, also in the group, you know, also with myself. In connection to my parents, I had a feeling I have to do something, you know, against this aggression or against these preconceived ideas, and also the Christian religions. I have to. I once had a dream, I think it was in Puttaparthi, about Jesus, you know. I didn't have so much contact to Jesus, or he was not my Ishtadeva or my favorite. And one time I had a dream of him. I was in the elevator, and I went to come to the top floor, and now there was something, you're a Christian, you have to be Christian in a way, you know. And then all of a sudden, Swami was there, and he melted with Jesus, and I knew I still in this fear, or not fear, but still in this conflict, you know, Christianity and Swami's teaching. But nowadays I don't have that anymore. I think I got also close to other religion. When I was hitchhiking through Afghanistan, and in the morning you hear the muezzin, you know, calling, and I had a strong feeling also I got also a feeling to the Islamic mystics, you know, the Sufis, Jalaluddin Rumi or Ibn Arabi. Ibn Arabi is a philosopher who was in Spain, you know, in the 12th century or 8th, and his Mal-Samadhi is in Damascus. And if you see these teachings, they're also, in a way, Advaita. But Master Eckhart had to keep things very underneath with the Advaitic teaching. It was so, how to say that, it was so, he put a language not everybody could understand. But people who were open and would go deeper into it, they understand, you know. There is only one God, you know, He's everywhere and around you, in you, like this. But in that time, of course, you couldn't do that. You had to, in the church, you had to be careful about this. You know, and also the Islamic mystics, there's a beautiful stories about Jalaluddin Rumi, then Rabia in Basra. It was a Sufi mystic, a lady, you know, in the 8th century. So if you read these things, you're like, wow, beautiful. You know, and of course, in Buddhism, you find it also, you find the Tao Te Ching in China, you know, which is beautiful, you know. Yeah, that's really attractive. Also, some Indian stories, you know, from the Inca stories or some Maya stories, if you go deeper into these, the epics, they still have, there is some deeper meaning in that, To know about Swami, that you always trust your inside in a way. Listen to inside. Don't listen too much to outside. Of course, sometimes you listen inside, but there is a different message coming up. Some ego tells you this and this and this. But you have to go deeper. And is this right? Is that my way? Is this the thing I have to do? And if you go really into it, it's sometimes difficult. But then you will be guided, to Swami in a way. Whatever you do, you will be guided. And if you trust into this guidance, then it makes it easier to go forward, even in difficult situations, I mean, I got a photo from Ukraine and in some Advikia, I forgot the city, and there was just from a tree, the rest of the tree, and somebody put a picture into it, into the tree, in some kind of, he fixed it on the tree, and he was there with his helmet next to it, and I was saying, may Swami bless this city, There's also some act which is very beautiful, especially in a situation, if there's a war and things become very, very difficult, But wartime, sometimes you have to go more inside. Otherwise, if you go too much outside, here's this, and this, then you can also, your mind starts rotating, And you have to go inside. And that's maybe in wartime that people go back to churches, go into the temple to get a connection again to the inner reality. Otherwise, if you go too strong into the outer reality, so-called reality, then your mind goes crazy. Yeah, and for the younger people, how to say, don't imitate, that's my slogan, and trust also yourself, and of course, the song. There is this saying in the Bible, the English. Wait a minute. What you don't want people to do to you, you don't. You don't do to others. In a way that you. There's a very important saying, or one of the central saying that you. Don't hurt anybody else, and if you get hurt, don't be so strong. That's like in this morning praying, what I was saying, or evening praying. And also, if you have something to do and you feel good with it, just put your energy into it. But don't think about the fruits, That's also an important thing. And if you think about fruits, then you're already lost in these, in the way, oh my God, I've done him so much good and now he doesn't give me anything back, This, in India, is called Nishkama Karma. That's a very important thing. You do and you don't expect a reward, You don't expect something back. That's also the way in Seva. You do, and then you don't expect any back. But of course, you have to discriminate, You have to discriminate, is it really necessary, Or is the seva you are doing now on a point where you stop also, Help people to help themselves. It's a very strong and so usual saying, We had many different miracles. We were sitting here many times. I think we had 50, 60 interviews in these years. In 1970 was especially the time when Swami was doing like a month. Later on, the old people, he kept a bit back, and some new people came. And so now, after 1 year, you get enough. You're not kindergarten anymore. You should get into school, into college, And some people didn't want to go into college. They want to be in kindergarten, Swami touched him like a kindergarten child. But one day you have to grow up. And there was a miracle. We had an interview, and Swami was talking about Shiva Lingam, was it about... And then he materialized an Atma Lingam, which was a stone like this big, and it was round, and he gave it around to everybody. And then Swami took it back and blew into it. And there were some concentric holes going down, like this into that round lingam, And Swami took it back, which was still complete. Then he blew on it, and all of a sudden was these two holes. And he was saying, this is Atma Lingam. And then he showed it around. And I'm not sure if he took it back and was saying it's too powerful to give to somebody, Like he gives Shiva Lingams, when he materializes lingams only to people who know the rituals. Now for other people it may be, he gives them also lingam, but not with that power. Like you have to do some ritual on it. That's the thing. And if you don't know the ritual, then it's maybe it's not so good, maybe even negative, And and of course materializing sugar cane. One time he was materializing some metal pictures on a metal thing. Was of 15, he was materializing and give to everybody. And and Vibhuti anyway, and also sugar candy. But sometimes we were sitting in the interview room. Swami went in the room back and came with this, carried in a little bag. And then we saw, no, he's materializing. He gave the Vibhuti package to everybody. So they used the things get materialized. Of course it was materialized, but not at that moment. It didn't. He just came back with this bag, and everybody got a package of material, of Vibhuti. Everybody had this battle picture of him. And one day I went to, I think it was in Brindavan. No. It was in Puttaparthi. I went to the post office to look if I have some letters. So I put my purse, I put on the shelf, and there was nobody around me. And there was this little counter, and I put these 10 rupees and this picture of Swami I put there. And I asked it, and all of a sudden this purse was gone. When I knew there was nobody around, and this guy inside the office, he could not go put his hand outside. That was not possible. And I thought, what's happening? Of course, it was only 10 rupees. And also this metal thing. And then this was 4 months, I think, after Swami made this. And then I thought, Swami is taking it back. Don't be so attached to this outer things, if Swami material is something, Don't be too much attached. It's time to leave it. And that was okay. Otherwise, he didn't. I never really expected something. I never really wished to have a ring or something like this. Of course, sweets, he was different times. He was, of course, materializing. But we were so used to that. That's okay, Swami is materializing something. That's a human thing. Also, you get used to things, to surroundings. And you think sometimes even, it's your right. Yeah, you are close to Swami, and it's your right to be here and take this. And then if he keeps you away, the first moment you have to think about, you think, what is wrong? But also important to keep you away. Stay on your own legs. That's also very important, And learn that you're not kindergarten, but you're getting into college, and go more to the inner Swami. Listen to the inner Swami. Take some time, of course, to go into that, but sometimes also intuitions, you have here also ideas. That's exactly what we have to do. And also, if you pray in a way, if you do some meditation, you have project or you have some problems, and then you just ask Swami, and maybe he may not react at the moment, or you don't realize when he reacts, but later on, oh yes, I was guided, in this situation. And one thing I also, when I had an interview, or if we had an interview, what I learned later on for myself after these years, or after Swami was physically more distant, and so many people came, was the be the witness. Be the witness what is going on. And sometimes if I had meetings or conferences in my institution, and I was there chairman of the Workers' Council, and so sometimes we had conflict with the management, and then sometimes I was sitting there and I had the feeling I'm just I'm looking at myself and the surrounding, and it's untouched, The self is untouched, and you do acting there, of course. And you see this situation, then you can go back to be the witness, later. Or even if you reflect the situation, say, my God, you behaved also like somebody, or like the others, got emotional. But later on you realize it's just the game of life, And as long as you don't hurt anybody, and it's okay. Yeah, otherwise materialization, of course, there's so many stories about healings and things like this. And I think one day in an interview, it was in the beginning, he was telling us that my eyes are not so good. And in this private interview, the first interview we had, behind the curtain, he told me, I should eat better food. Like I was traveling around India, and of course I had very simple food. Sometimes the quality was maybe not so good. But also, like I told you already before, my mind was going like a monkey mind, And yes, and things have worked out. I'm happy and healthy all these 10 years. And I was also lucky. Was I lucky? I felt always also not to go into extremes, with food, with diets, and things like this. And I must say, in these 50 years, I was never really sick, or I was always had energy. And in these 30 years when I worked in the institution, I was maybe one day I was sick in a year, So I still had this feeling. And when I came back from Swami, I did the work in a different way I did before I came to Swami. Before I dropped out in this office, I was an office clerk in bookkeeping, and I had also professional training there in this company. I was very unhappy. It was not my thing in a way. That's why I dropped out. Then I came back from India, I went into some social work, and I learned a lot with handicapped children. And later on, I was in an institution for visually and blind people, especially young adults. And well, I liked it. I never was going, like in early time, you have this saying, oh, tomorrow is Monday, I have to go to work again. That was before Swami. But later on, I came, oh, it's okay. I like my work. Even if it's simple, or somebody else says, oh, what is this for work? And one thing when I came back from Puttaparthi, Swami, I went for 4 months into an office. That was a kind of holiday job. In a big company in Nuremberg, so some kind of department store. And there I worked for 4 months, and I was assistant of a director there, and I felt good, and sometimes the others were already putting their pencil aside. It's 5 to 4, it's in And, so now, and I just still worked. Beno, it's 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So it's a different attitude, you know. Of course, I stopped working then. I stopped to keep up the time, but never looked at the time, oh my God. Or a Monday in earlier time, oh my God, tomorrow I have to go to my job. You know, that's gone. Thanks to Swami. Sai Ram.